Have you ever thought about the moment when you start a new playthrough of an RPG, and you enter your first battle, and you see the number pop up? Why is it that number? It could be any number. It's always different. The scaling is always different. Why this number in specific? What if that number was nice instead? So for today's stupid gimmick, pretentiously disguised as a scientific inquest, I want to see how fast can you deal 69 damage in every mainline Final Fantasy game. I did think about making it 67 instead, but I'm in my 30s, man, I can't be doing that. I am unk, as the kids say.
So here's the rules of this challenge. Start from a brand new game file, try as fast as possible to deal 69 damage. Someone in the player-controlled party must deal exactly 69 damage. Not 69 or more, 69 exactly. Other numbers are not nice. Taking 69 damage is funny, but does not count. Healing 69 damage is also funny, but not what I'm looking for. Damage must be dealt. There are no particular restrictions on how you achieve this 69 damage. Regular attack, magic, items, whatever gets a 69 to display on the screen is good enough for me.
So those are the parameters. Fairly straightforward, I think. So let's now address the list of games that I chose to play for this video. I chose to only play mainline numbered Final Fantasy games for this, and also I excluded the MMOs. So no 11 or 14, which I know will upset the 14 people, but I don't play 14 and I didn't really want to get the logistics of doing an MMO involved in this. Sorry also to the 11 enjoyers, but I'm not dealing with Play Online for this. Sequel games and spin-offs are also not included, so no FF4 The After Years, no 13 too. I had to draw the line somewhere because every Final Fantasy game is an immeasurably, incomprehensibly large number of games. And for the purpose of this classification, Final Fantasy VII Remake is considered a spin-off, so it does not count. I'm sure someone will disagree with me on that classification, they can die mad about it. I am allowed to pick whatever version of the core 14 games that I want. This rule mostly exists for my own personal convenience because I don't have every version of every Final Fantasy game, so I just used the ones I had to hand. And despite the above criteria, there is still one bonus game in this video that does not fit them because I threw it in there as an extra, so look forward to that. So, you got all that? Good. Let's hit some nice numbers, starting with the pixel remaster version of Final Fantasy I. Final Fantasies 1 through 6 will in fact all be being done on the pixel remaster version with its terrible font because they were all on the same system, so I didn't need to change console for every game. I was doing all of these games sequentially as part of a live stream, so the logistics of console swapping did enter my mind. I set up a party of one warrior, one monk, one white mage, and one black mage, having no real idea which one is going to hit the 69 for me. Because yes, I'm sure the question in your head right now is, Punchy, did you have a plan for all of these? And the answer to that is, sometimes. See, I like Final Fantasy, but I think I like Final Fantasy a normal amount. The amount of forethought and planning varied by game because I'm not intimately familiar with the entire series. Some games, I did actually have a pretty robust plan going in. Some games, I was basically just winging it. Final Fantasy I was somewhere in the middle of these two extremes, as my basic plan was just to progress through the story until the numbers got bigger, as at the outset of the game I'm hitting roughly 20s and 18s. Numbers in early Final Fantasies start low enough that I'm almost certain you can build up to it, the question is just how long is it going to take? So I quickly progress the story, defeat Garland, and head out onto the wider world map. At about 17 minutes in, my fighter hits a lucky crit and does 83 damage. This is the first time I've seen a number greater than 69 be dealt by any character, and a critical hit 69 would be allowed for this challenge. If anything, I think that makes it nicer. A couple minutes later, my warrior hits a 61. We're slowly getting there. Nobody else is really getting particularly close, they're all doing about 30 to 40 damage. So I'm under the impression that the warrior is going to be the most likely character to hit 69 first. But then I encounter a pack of ghasts who immediately paralyze everyone except the black mage, who then proceeds to do 63, 61...
Hero, thank you for the 40 months. 69! The Black Mage has it! Next game!
22 minutes in and already the first nice number has been hit, a good pace. So I immediately roll onto Final Fantasy II. There's a bit of mandatory introing before I'm able to head out onto the world map proper, but my basic strategy for Final Fantasy II isn't tremendously different from 1. My plan here is largely just to potter about the world map, killing enemies, leveling up until the numbers get big enough. And this strategy seems to be going well enough once again on the magic user, Maria, who I have cast fire over and over again, and eventually her Fire 2s start getting within the 50 to 60 range. It's looking very likely that this will be the play. But Final Fantasy II's spell growth mechanics, where using the same spell over and over again actually levels it up and makes it do more damage, presents a unique problem for this challenge, which is that I only get so many rolls to hit 69 with fire before it becomes too powerful and I can no longer hit my target number. While I'm rolling on these fire attempts, I do indeed hit 67. Get a little damage. That's not nice at all. You will honestly be amazed at how many times this happens during this video. I think I end up hitting 67 in like every fucking game before I manage to get a 69. And sure enough, that 67 is the closest I managed to get before my fire levels up to Fire 4, at which point it's doing way too much damage. It's hitting triple digits consistently. This is not going to work. I attempt to spread the damage by doing a group cast, but doing group casts in Final Fantasy II spreads the damage by 8, which is too much. It would take absolutely fucking ages for a group cast to hit 69 this way, so that one's out. In the end, I return to a much more humble strategy. I reload a save from before I hit Fire 4 and just try again. And my persistence is rewarded because eventually 69! Yeah! Can I point out, by the way, the damage range in this game is massive? The first Fire 3 does 138, the second does 69. That's like half. Well, is it like a magic crit? Can magic crit in this game? I don't actually know. And I don't have to know, because we roll immediately onto Final Fantasy III. 2 games down in less than an hour, and I'm feeling pretty confident. Final Fantasy III opens with the lowest numbers yet, as you start out in a very controlled tutorial environment, exploring a cave, and your damage numbers are in the single digits during this portion of the game. Someone in my chat asks if it's okay to hit 69 using an item, and I reply as such. Is it still technically a 69 if you're using items? Dude, the best sex often involves items. I do not see the problem. About 8 minutes in, and I can finally start assigning jobs to my party members, and they'll actually start doing some damage and make some progress. I set one of my characters to be a black mage, intending to replicate the fire-based strategy of the previous 2 games, only to run aground to the fact the only spell being sold at this point is a poison recovery spell. So my black mage just has no offensive capability right now. Great. What a funny thing to do. Fortunately, in the Pixel Remaster version of Final Fantasy III, there is no penalty to swapping jobs back and forth, so you can experiment at will. And indeed, the numbers the warriors are hitting are looking a little better, but they're still definitely not getting close to that prized 69 figure. This one's gonna be a bit of work. I intend to make some progress, with the eventual goal being to buy an offensive spell, because that seems to be the fastest way of going about it in the classic games, but I run into the fact that Final Fantasy III is kind of hard off the hop. You're meant to proceed through these cave dungeons in order to solve a problem in a local village, but the enemies in these caves hit pretty hard, and in the absence of any magic, you're supposed to just level up and eventually get a little bit stronger and hit them with swords better. Now, I submit that as a condition of this challenge, I'm not really playing with the most careful thought process. I'm rushing through the game as quickly as possible. But I feel like I must be doing something wrong here. But then again, am I? Final Fantasy III is a Famicom game. They really did just expect you to sit there in a field killing monsters for 5 hours. After about 20 minutes of genuinely doing not a lot besides wandering a field leveling up... 68! Painful. There's nothing funny about that at all, is there? I do eventually get strong enough to fight the Griffin in Castle Sassanee and claim the White Slayer, a stronger sword that should hopefully jumpstart my power and get me closer to 69. But only my red mage can use it. Warriors can't use the good sword, for some reason. I don't know why. I end up just deciding to proceed through the story as normal and see how we go. The red mage is now hitting numbers above 69, but not at 69, which is not helpful. And I end up reaching the game's first major boss, the Jinn, without dealing 69 damage at all. But during the fight, funny, crit, 60, damn it. 64, 60, it's only 64! This game is for the 64 damage! Everyone's only doing 64! Killing the Jinn and advancing the story, I'm finally able to buy offensive magic from the magic store, getting my hands on Fire and Blizzard. So I job swap one of my guys to a black mage, and immediately set about giving it a go. And it ends up completely not fucking mattering because this happens. 69 from the red, just like 2 in a row! Oh my god! Yep. In the end, the solution ended up being just level up and hit physically. Not a very exciting answer, but I honestly don't know what else you could do here with this one. This game starts off real slow. So Final Fantasy III ended up taking just shy of 40 minutes. They're starting to get longer. And get longer they shall continue to do with Final Fantasy IV, which has a whole intro cutscene and everything, that you cannot skip for some reason. Now, I will confess ignorance on this one out the gate. Final Fantasy IV is one of the handful of Final Fantasy games I actually have not played at all prior to this video. I know, not really the ideal time to play one of the classic RPGs, but I wanted to do this now rather than never. So this one I was completely winging it. But there's hope very quickly, as once I get control of the party in earnest and start exploring the world map, the damage numbers are pretty close out the gate. Kain is hitting 60s and 70s straight away. I'm pretty hopeful that this will turn into a quick one. And then time passes. I continue to attack, and 69 is not forthcoming. I continue to attack, and still, it is not there. There's something wrong with these numbers. I'll let you see if you can figure out what they are. A 68 here, a 72 there. The time continues to tick up with me not really advancing in the game in any meaningful way. Have you spotted the problem yet? These are all even numbers. This is a problem I did not expect to run into because I don't have that type of deep mechanical familiarity with every game in this series, but something about the Final Fantasy IV video game, in this early game area, it seems to be impossible to do an odd number of damage. I sit here for, seriously, far too long trying without really picking up on the pattern. Kain can hit 68, or he can hit 72, but he's never gonna hit between those numbers for some reason. I'm sure this could be explained if I was willing to pass the mathematical formula for damage calculations, but I don't know what they are for the Pixel Remaster. There's reams of information about there on this game for the Super Nintendo version, but I don't know if any of this is different, and I'm scared to guess. But either way, after wasting about half an hour trying fruitlessly to roll a 69 with Kain, I simply progress the story and try a different approach. We lose Kain, replace him with Rydia, and then 69! All of a sudden it just occurs! Yep, Cecil just hits a 69 on a random enemy, I don't know why. But it worked, so we get to move on to Final Fantasy V.
Which has probably the longest intro phase of any of these games up to this point. This run doesn't really start in earnest until we can start throwing jobs onto the characters, and it takes a while to get there. I don't know, maybe you could level up enough to hit 69 as a freelancer, but I have a strong inclination that's probably not as quick as just progressing the game. It's about 25 minutes into the game before I can start assigning classes and really develop a strategy here. And I don't have a strategy.
Magic is once again frustratingly off the table from the outset because no spells. So I set a variety of offensive classes and get to work seeing what the numbers are. Those results are extremely unpromising, so I hit up the next town and do in fact buy some spells. This might be another cast fire to win kind of game, you never know. About 40 minutes in and I've made it to the ship graveyard, but magic is either doing too much damage or too little, and the physical attackers are all still hitting in within the 40-ish range. It's not looking promising. Towards the end of the ship graveyard, things start looking more favorable, with the party starting to hit 70s and 80s, but that's actually too many. At this point, I'm honestly a bit surprised of how much of a project this one is turning into. I knew some of these were going to be long, I just didn't think 5 was going to be one of them. Around this time, Monk Galoof is starting to do about 63-ish damage. He's looking the most promising by far. I even unlock the trophy for winning 100 battles without managing to do 69. God damn it. While aimlessly pottering about the North Mountain, I take notice of the fact Monk seems to be my best shot, and also accidentally poison everyone within an inch of their life. So I arrive on a do-or-die plan. Maybe everyone should become a monk, you know what? You're so right. Everyone, take off your shirts. Everyone, we are going to do battle. Yeah! Lena punches for 69 damage, dude. And there we have it. About an hour for Final Fantasy V, Monk Lena punches a 69. Good work. On to Final Fantasy VI. For some reason on the Pixel Remasters, Final Fantasy VI is the only game whose intro cutscene you're allowed to skip, so I get to gameplay relatively quickly on this one. Now, granted, during this introductory bit of gameplay, every single character is hitting for hundreds of points of damage, so this is going to do me no good. I need to progress onto the game in earnest before I can get this.
After about 10 minutes, I get control of Terra standalone, but this also isn't really the game opening up, and This still does me no good, as these numbers are too low. It's closer to 69 than the 500 I was doing earlier, but still not really close. What feels like my first real chance occurs during the set piece where you take control of Locke protecting Terra as you control various parties mostly consisting of Moogles. These Moogles are getting within the striking range, some 50s, some 60s, but also some 80s and 90s. And here I come up with a plan. I end up pinning my hopes on one specific Moogle, Molulu. Molulu is hitting 65, 67, 70. It really feels like it's possible. But there's only so many chances you get at this
before you either wipe out or the set piece moves on because you won. Or is there? Because I realize if you lose to the final enemy of this set piece, the party is simply revived at the top with 1 HP, giving you effectively infinite tries at this.
I'm here pulling at this slot machine, hoping that Molulu will hit a 69 for probably around 20 minutes? 65, 67, 70. It's absolutely devastating. I'm convinced this can happen. But after wasting probably too long on this, I simply choose to move on with the game instead. I really feel like it's possible, and it would be very funny if the first possible chance you have in FF6 to hit a 69 is with a Moogle, but I never got it. It never quite happened. So I instead spend the next 20 minutes progressing the story. Edgar joins the party, but I run into the problem of Edgar's tools and Terra's magic are doing too much damage, while physical attacks aren't doing enough. It's weird that that keeps happening. I reach South Figaro and purchase new equipment for every character, hoping the power boost from doing so will get me within that 69 sort of range I'm looking for. I have to shuffle equipment around a bit to tweak the numbers and level up a couple of times, but eventually...
Yes! Almost instantly. I just barely... Okay.
Edgar does in fact hit the magic 69. Wonderful. Final Fantasy VI ended up taking around a full hour, though it probably would have taken 30 minutes if I didn't waste so much time with the Moogles. I still wonder about this one. I feel like there's gotta be a better answer to this question. But it is an answer, so off to Final Fantasy VII we go. Now we're on the PS1 games, and these are the ones I expected to take considerably longer. They got those big fancy set pieces and pre-rendered cutscenes and all that jazz. Also, just to address this is being played on Final Fantasy VII International, the Japanese re-release of the PlayStation 1 version. This is a question that often got brought up in the comments of previous videos I've done, namely on the Resident Evil games, where people ask me, why are you playing the Japanese version? And in a lot of cases, it's because it's the only version of the game I have. I'm a Japanese speaker. Sometimes I only have the Japanese version. In this case, I thought I prepared an English version of Final Fantasy VII before I started recording this, but apparently I forgot, so this is what you got.
It doesn't make a tremendous difference. Final Fantasy VII International and the American version of Final Fantasy VII are basically the same. Moving on from that, I quickly make tracks through the opening bombing mission, vibing to the music all the while. Far be it from me to suggest this, but Final Fantasy VII has a pretty good soundtrack. I do very quickly notice that magic seems to deal the exact same amount every time if used on the same enemy. I made the apparently incorrect assumption on the start of this challenge that almost all Final Fantasy games rolled damage within some kind of range. So for most of these games it would be a case of leveling up enough and then just rolling a few times until you hit a 69, right? As I found out many times over the course of this, that is not how a lot of these games work. Regardless, there is no practical opportunity to hit 69 during the opening segment, so I quickly progress the story, and by god there is a lot of mandatory story to get through before we can really start playing the game again. It's about another full 30 minutes before I once again have control of a complete party of characters and can start experimenting. But once again at this early stage of the game, I find myself in that awkward position. Physical attacks aren't doing enough, magic is generally doing too much. Barrett hits a heartbreaking 70 on a random enemy, and that's about how it goes for the next while. Once again, I have a strong feeling it might just be about possible around this juncture, but I never quite managed to actually hit the perfect number. And the longer I spend trying, the more I level up, which pushes me further out of the range. I hope to have better luck with the enemies in the next Mako reactor, and I don't. I'm almost certain I'm doing this wrong. Final Fantasy VII is one of the best explored RPGs ever. I'm almost certain someone who knows a crazy amount about this game could produce a better answer to this query than I currently am doing, but I'm not one of those guys. I like Final Fantasy VII, but I like it a relatively normal amount. I do experiment with various materia combinations, trying to push characters' magic attack into the correct zone where I can hit a 69, but nothing produces the exact right result. So once again, I am forced to progress the story and try again at a different juncture. About an hour and 10 minutes in, we defeat the airbuster, Cloud falls through the roof of the church, and we meet Aerith. Or is it Eris? We'll never know for sure. Once again, I'm subjected to a lot of mandatory set piece and narrative type things before I can get back to trying to roll for the magic number. I am very confused when I mess up the barrel pushing set piece thing that happens in the church. Aerith gets into a fight and back attacks the enemy. They walked into her. What do you mean? I didn't even know that could happen. Anyway, Aerith's physical attacks, as you can see, are nowhere close, so I don't have particularly high hopes for that panning out. I also got into a random encounter while moving around on the rafters with the barrels. I didn't know that could happen either. I learned a couple of new things doing this. An hour and a half in, we get Cloud and Aerith to the scrapyard, which feels like the most reasonable place to give this a shot. I try a couple of attacks and a couple of spells on a Hell House, and no luck there. Magic, once again, too high, physical attacks too low. And it slowly dawns on me I might be in for quite the long haul on this one. I even give items a spin to see how that goes. Not well. But then this happens. 66 from Aerith on a back attack Hell House. It's the closest I've been the entire playthrough. But also, how reliable is getting Aerith to back attack a Hell House? That doesn't seem like the kind of thing that happens very... Oh, it's the very next encounter. Unfortunately, I have to get through Aerith's limit break before I'm allowed to do a normal attack for once. But I use Cloud to keep the Hell House facing away from Aerith. Another 66! But okay, there's another chance. One more go.
69! She did it! She did it, dude! And it was dealt in kind! It was repaid in full!
Yep, an hour and 40 minutes in, definitely the longest of any of these so far. The first time I managed to hit exactly 69 is from Aerith back attacking a Hell House, which does not feel very replicable to me. That is a very funny answer to the question, but I feel like there's gotta be a better solution to it than that. And also the Hell House clapped back at her with a 69 of its own. Very good. You can't script this kind of shit, dude. This is the kind of thing that only happens when you do it live. But we move on from Hell House to Final Fantasy VIII, a game I have a very low degree of familiarity with. I used to have this game when I was younger, but every disc other than disc 1 was screwed up and it didn't work. I spend probably too much time faffing about with the junction menu trying to remember how all of this works. This might be one of the worst games for this challenge to not really remember how the mechanics work, but there's actually a lot of promises that this one will be quick early on, as hitting a Gunblade crit with Squall fairly reliably produces numbers in the 60s provided you get the timing right. But after about 10 minutes of experimenting around with this and trying various magics, it never quite manages to hit that number. It's always just a little bit too low. I tried leveling up once and giving it another go, but Final Fantasy VIII is weird, and leveling up doesn't actually give you any stat boosts, so I'm still doing the same numbers as before. It becomes clear to me I'm going to need to progress the game and actually experiment around with the junctioning system to get that perfect range. Rather annoyingly, I managed to hit an enemy in the fire cave for 67. Again, amazing how many times this happens to me. In this game, more than any other, I think I hit 67 like a dozen times, taunting me, mocking me. This is the generational divide in action.
Ooh, 67 is the new funny number. Ooh, it's the new one. Why don't you know the new funny number? Ooh!
Sorry, doing too many of these in a row has made me lose my cool somewhat. I face off against Ifrit, and casting Blizzard over and over again actually is getting fairly close to the result I'm looking for. It's weird how close Final Fantasy VIII starts to the specific number I'm looking for, but just won't quite give it to me. This one was very annoying. I cast Blizzard probably over a dozen times, and I think hit literally every single number except the one I'm looking for. And Ifrit eventually dies without ever coughing up that nice number I'm looking for. God damn it. But I have now acquired Ifrit, meaning I am now able to junction a magic to strength, and I do so, gaining exactly 1 point. Just one. And would you believe it, that enemy I used to be hitting 67 on, with 1 extra strength point, I am now hitting 72! I'm going to scream. This game is impossible. Final Fantasy VIII is the worst Final Fantasy game because you cannot hit 69. Oh my god. Oh, yep, there we go. Took a bit of a roundabout path to get there, but this caterpillar-type enemy in the forest, this is what I finally managed to hit a 69 off of. After hitting, I think, genuinely dozens of every number around the target. Finally got one. Just one. Good grief. But there it is. In a little under an hour, We found a way to do 69 damage in Final Fantasy VIII. I feel like this could take 10 minutes if you actually know what you're doing and aren't quite as unlucky as me. But them's the break sometimes. Next game, please. Now for Final Fantasy IX, a very beloved entry in the series. And this one might surprise you. I had the most detailed plan going into this one. This is the one I very much calculated. And I am very, very pleased with my answer. So we start the game and get things rolling, and you might notice something unusual out the gate about the numbers being dealt here. Firstly, they're too low. Secondly, they're all even numbers. Final Fantasy IX, even by the standards of the other Final Fantasy games, has quite a long intro. There's not a lot we can really meaningfully do until we get to the ship crash in the Evil Forest. You might think we might be able to make something happen with Vivi's magic, but his base magic stat is entirely too strong. You're never gonna hit 69 with this guy. Little man's hitting like triple digits almost off the hop. It's not gonna happen. There's not a lot to really say about the introductory parts, because the game spends a lot of time introducing characters one by one, and one by one, there is no meaningful chance to really adjust your strategy to try and hit 69. Fun game though, I do like Final Fantasy IX, but I'm coming into this with a very specific objective. During one of these fights, in the introductory section of the game, I come up with an idea that maybe attacking my party members might help me get to 69 slightly faster. This doesn't work. I just end up killing everyone. Vivi kills them all. About 40 minutes in, the party finally crashes into the Evil Forest and we get the trance tutorial, and I die during this fight because I don't use my trance abilities, because I'm obsessed with the idea that maybe it's possible to hit 69 with a trance regular attack. It doesn't work. Don't do this. In fact, I'll actually reveal the thing I thought of right now while we're here. A physical attack is never ever going to do 69 at any point for the first several hours of the game. This is because of a quirk of the damage calculation. In order to do an odd number of damage, you need to be hitting an enemy with an odd number of defense. Guess what? There are no enemies with odd-numbered defenses until you get to, like, Black Mage 3 or something? It's quite a while in.
So here's my plan. Firstly, we don't die to the stupid absorbing plant, and then we steal the iron sword off of Baku when we get the chance. This is a little random, but so is everything in this challenge, so why not? Because the iron sword has the ability Minus Strike for Steiner. I think the Rubber Helm does also, but I went with the Iron Sword, whatever. Minus Strike is an ability that allows Steiner to do damage equal to the difference between his current health and his maximum health. As in, if Steiner has taken 69 damage, he will do exactly 69 damage. As far as I know, this is like the only chance you have to do 69 damage until you're like a quarter of the way through the game otherwise, so I really need this to work. So, how do you do it? How do you get Steiner to take exactly 69 damage? Then we have Vivi attack a blocking Steiner. This does 27 damage, which is a good amount.
This, combined with a random stray enemy attack, means I'm able to get Steiner into the range where he is 6 points of health away from the exact number I need. So now I just need to get lucky and have an enemy deal 6 damage. But can any of them? And the answer is surprisingly, yes, because it happens almost immediately. And while I waste my turn like an idiot by pressing defend with Steiner, fortunately the enemy attacks Zidane, so I'm still able to take my next turn, use Minus Strike with Steiner. 69! And there it is. Don't you love it when a plan comes together exactly as I pictured? 69 damage dealt, at level 1 no less. This is probably the most complicated setup any of these are going to have, and I honestly would challenge anyone who knows this game very well to come up with a better solution to this problem than that. I'm pretty sure you could execute this a lot faster than I did, but I think you'd struggle to come up with an earlier point in the game where dealing 69 damage is possible. So I'm very pleased with this one. This one made me happy. But don't stop now, here's Final Fantasy X. This is the game I thought was going to take the longest out of all of these. Final Fantasy X is also a game I'm relatively familiar with, but I didn't have quite as detailed a plan going into it. If Final Fantasy IX had a plan, this was more a series of ideas. I was quite prepared for this one to take a couple of hours. In particular, it takes 10 minutes before combat even happens for the very first time in this game, and once it does finally start, ooh, triple-digit numbers out of the gate. That's interesting. This is the first time we've run into this problem. You may have noticed this phenomenon as I've been going through the video, but as the games have gone on, the basic attack values get higher, and Final Fantasy X is the first game where the basic attack value is so high that there is no shot of doing low enough damage to do 69. So we need a different approach to this one other than just level up and eventually get lucky with a physical hit. So I press on through the intro as quickly as possible, and almost die to the third encounter because I forgot to heal between them. Look at this stupid shit, dude. 10 HP in a dream. Proceeding through the linear sequences, the Ruin segment still brings me no joy. Tidus is critting for 260, which is entirely too much damage. Our first real hope shows up when Riku turns up, as Riku's basic attack is doing about 60-ish damage. Maybe there's a chance. I have Tidus just block the entire fight and continually roll the Riku gacha in the hope of hitting the magic number, but she doesn't quite have the juice. So with that out of the way, my next idea is once we finally gain access to the sphere grid, I unlock the Cheer ability with Tidus. Cheer is an ability that increases the attack of the party. Maybe that can boost Riku to the ideal threshold.
Wow! Speedy play!
Yep. That worked. That really was the answer. It was that simple. Cast Cheer on Riku once, she can hit 69. Once again, I think you'd be hard-pressed to come up with a better answer to this question. In the end, Final Fantasy X only took about 38 minutes, which surprised me. I was very ready for this to take multiple hours. I very quickly jump into Final Fantasy XII being played on the Zodiac Age edition because that's just what I happen to have. And because this game has skippable cutscenes, within about a minute I'm actually already in combat. Wow! And furthermore, I'm pretty optimistic about this one because very quickly in this prologue segment, Rex is hitting around 60-70 with various attacks and magic spells. In particular, I found backtracking out to the entrance after already entering respawned Imperial Swordsmen for me to keep rolling thunders on, and I was convinced that if I just sat there for long enough, I could make this happen. And I'm fucking right, moreover, not even out of the intro, that's the shortest one to date. Fucking 7 minutes. 7 minutes. 7 minutes is all I can spare to play with you. Final Fantasy XII ended up taking longer to set up than it did to play, since it turns out you can hit a 69 within the first 5 minutes of booting the game up. Speaking of setup, in order to play Final Fantasy XIII, the only Final Fantasy Square doesn't sell on modern consoles for some reason, I had to wrestle with my fucking Microsoft account because Microsoft are an invasive species. Did you know that Xbox Series X's won't just run 360 games unless you're logged in and connected to the internet? It's awesome. It's a physical disc. I have it. But no, everything's gotta be a friggin' account system. I swear to God, dude, I hate this. Don't buy an Xbox. And Square, can you please give this game a modern port so I don't have to put up with this bullshit? I know there's a PC port, but I've never had any luck getting it to work properly. Fortunately, I do wrangle my Microsoft account, cursing their name all the while, and I'm able to start playing the game. Now, Final Fantasy XIII is a famously linear game, so would it surprise you if I told you that for the most part we're just going to be attacking and not hitting the ideal number for the first few fights? Fortunately, at least I see that we can build up to 69. I actually had something of a plan going into this game, although as you'll see, I didn't end up using it. The main crux of this is going to be the stagger bar. Every enemy has this stagger bar in the top right that builds up as they are attacked, and that essentially acts as a damage multiplier, and as you can see, it's very analog, going up in very small increments, which means theoretically there is a very wide range of damage that can be achieved at any moment, but the enemy has to also live long enough for you to be able to hit it. And in the early stage, enemies don't last more than 4 attacks, so that does not really happen. The best prospects early on are these enemies, the Pantherons, because they actually live long enough for staggers to take place, which boosts your damage a notable amount. I hit a very early 73 on one of them and think, if I'm a little luckier, maybe this can work. Next encounter with them, a 71. This is a problem though, because Final Fantasy XIII has a finite number of possible enemy encounters. They don't respawn or anything, so if I don't get lucky here, I'm not really sure when the next chance to do it might be. Third group of these, another 71. Damn it, the multiplier is just slightly too high. Second enemy in the fight, 73. The numbers aren't numbering. It's not panning out. But the last enemy in the group, EC. 69! It's over! Well, that wasn't my plan, but it worked! Beautiful. You love to see it. Why plan when you can just be lucky instead? I have to imagine a lot of people probably expected Final Fantasy XIII to be one of the longer games in this video, but it actually ended up being one of the shortest at only 11 minutes. So I get to boot up the PS5 again and play a Final Fantasy for fans and first-timers. Final Fantasy XV, as opposed to all the other Final Fantasies which aren't for fans. I will also note, just for the audience's information, that this is the vanilla Final Fantasy XV, I don't have the Royal Edition. I doubt this makes a large difference, but I can't play what I don't have. After the very bold way this game opens, by making you push a car to a service station, we finally get to participate in combat for the first time, where I run into a somewhat unique issue that I hadn't anticipated when I started blueprinting this challenge. I can't see any of the fucking numbers. Like, are any of these 69? I don't know, it's like happening so fast. I'm also a little bit concerned because Noctis is hitting big numbers right out the gate. He ain't hitting low enough. So I start experimenting with his various different weapons. 69! There it was, I saw it. Review the clips. Check the footage. Check the tapes. I 100% saw it. Yep, this is another real quick one. Within the very first quest of the game, just bopped a 69. Voila. These last handful of games are rolling by a lot faster than I thought they would. Before I know it, we're on to the final game of the challenge, Final Fantasy XVI, at about the 9-hour mark. And boy, does this one start as it means to go on, by making me participate in this auto-scrolling segment. There are no damage numbers here at all, so this does not bring me joy. Since Final Fantasy XVI is a game that was very firmly bitten by the bug of modern game design trends, there's an awful lot of walking and talking and squeezing through walls and stuff before any actual gameplay happens. If my tone is not giving it away already, I really don't like Final Fantasy XVI. I almost considered excluding it from this video, because it's not really an RPG, but it is a mainline Final Fantasy, so included I must. About 10 minutes in is when we finally get control in earnest and can start doing damage to some goblins in a swamp. And I will also say, this gameplay is terrible. I, forgot the controls and didn't pay any attention to the tutorial prompts. I really wanted to get out of here as soon as possible. I'm making this harder work by just playing poorly, but regardless, my regular attacks are doing a frustratingly specific amount of damage. There's no variance in the amount of damage being dealt like I expected, and one hit of my combo string is doing 70 damage. God damn it! I didn't realize 69 was such a complicated number to have picked for this. Any ability or magic-based attacks are out almost immediately. They're doing too much damage straight away, triple digits off the hop. So I need to find a way to modulate my weaker strikes to doing 69. And my chance arrives with the first mini-boss, because this is the first enemy you're able to stagger, which grants you a damage multiplier based on how much you attack them while they're staggered. This might work, along with some strength-boosting items I've already received.
Oh, it went past 69 and hit 70! God fucking damn it!
So yeah, unfortunately, no luck with this one either. We defeat this enemy, and I move on to my next chance. I do gain a level, which puts me slightly closer to having the third hit of my combo do the right number. I buy all of the abilities just in case one of them has the right multiplier I'm looking for, and I square off against the Marlboro, hoping the one extra level I gained is enough to push me over the threshold. What about now? 66? 66? 66? 69!
Yeah! I hit one! I did it! I win the game! I beat them all! I have completed this stupid challenge!
I'm not sure why I slipped into my Weevil Underwood impression there, but sure enough, I've done it! I've dealt 69 damage in every Final Fantasy game in 9 hours, 24 minutes, and 5 seconds. I feel the main thing I've learned from this is that a lot of RPGs are really bad with odd numbers. If you're gonna do this, don't make it 69. But don't touch that dial, I have one last game to show you. Since I got through the back handful of games a lot faster than I expected, I thought I had time to do one more bonus game before I wrapped things up. Fuck it, Lesbian Road Trip. Final Fantasy X-2. I know I said I wasn't doing sequel games, but I had time and X-2 was already there, so a bonus game for you all. How fast can you do 69 damage in Final Fantasy X-2? In this game, Yuna shoots people with a gun, and she starts doing so very quickly. Since Final Fantasy X-2 is kind of the precursor to Final Fantasy XIII's combat system, it also is very analog with how you deal damage. If all of your characters attack the same target in very quick succession, they build up a very slight damage multiplier, which means you can deal a very wide range of damage with the same basic attack. So I'm fairly confident the 69 damage is easily possible, but finding the ideal setup might prove a lot trickier. Not helping this is the fact that Final Fantasy X also has extremely long magical girl transformation sequences every time you swap abilities in the middle of combat. I know you can turn these off, but you still have to watch them once minimum. I somewhat embarrassingly waste about 10 minutes here because I keep not talking to everyone to advance the story like you're supposed to. I didn't see Riku in the cockpit, she's too short. Once I finally get back to gameplay, Yuna hits a fat 70 on a guy pretty quickly, so I have high hopes this one will be over in no time. There's a lot of things you can do to increase your damage in 10-2. Positioning is also important, for instance. If you attack an enemy from the back, you do more damage, so there's every chance I just randomly luck into the right combination without really trying to set anything up. But for the duration of the first mission, it doesn't really pan out that way, and I end up fighting all the way to the boss without seeing the magic number. The crab seems like a good opportunity to try and hit 69, as it lasts long enough for us to attack it repeatedly and build up a chain. And rather heartbreakingly, at one point I hit 68 and 70 in the same chain. I really feel like it must be possible to hit this here, but I just never managed to roll exactly the right number.
Again, 69, apparently a weirdly complicated number to have picked.
Once this mission is completed, however, Final Fantasy X-2 opens up quite a lot. You can go more or less anywhere and participate in a bunch of side quests straight away. 10-2 is a remarkably free-form game for this, so there's a very wide range of possibilities. But first things first, I snag a new garment grid from Shinra because it has strength boosts on it, which allows me to further modulate my attack. I hit up the Mushroom High Road first, as this area has enemies that will live just about long enough for me to potentially build up a chain. But about 20 minutes pass of me just hanging around here killing stuff, and it doesn't really pan out how I want it to. Many close calls, but never quite good enough. Getting a little frustrating, to be honest, given how close I was very quickly. After frankly way too long of this, I simply clear the mission and move on to Zanarkand instead, hoping that the enemies here will give me better results. I'm almost an hour in and I've really just been killing stuff over and over again on a loop. I'm getting a little bit closer, but I also feel like there's gotta be a better way than this. Something I'm not understanding about the game. And here's where I come up with an idea that in most other contexts would be completely fucking crazy. What if I just have the party shoot each other? That's right, I whittle a group of enemies down to one relatively unthreatening subject and then just have the Gullwings enact a disagreement among themselves as they proceed to shoot each other in the face over and over again. Of these, the one that gets closest is Gunner's cheap shot ability, which Yuna quickly uses to shoot herself for 66 damage. Look, I just said it had to deal 69 damage, I didn't say to who. I am genuinely in this stupid friendly fire situation for probably 8-ish minutes when... Yeah! Yes! Yuna shot Riku in the face for 69 damage! I have the inclination attacking members of your own party might be a more ideal way of doing this for quite a few games, but I didn't really test that possibility. But there you have it, there's 69 damage in every mainline Final Fantasy, plus a bonus game just for you. Just to recap, I managed the whole thing in 9 hours and 24 minutes. The longest game was Final Fantasy VII at 1 hour and 41 minutes, with the shortest game being Final Fantasy XII at 7 minutes and 41 seconds. So, the real winners here today are Final Fantasy XII fans who now have scientific proof that their game does not in fact have a slow start. And that will be it for this video. I don't really have a conclusion to end with or anything. This video wasn't really trying to prove anything. I just made this for fun. And fun I did indeed have doing this, exploring weird possibilities and niche interactions within the systems. I'm still very proud of my Final Fantasy IX solution. If you enjoyed this video, consider liking and subscribing. I hope to come up with more stupid challenge runs in the future. I don't know what form they'll take, but if you have good ideas, by all means, please do leave them in the comments. And consider supporting on the Patreon, which enables the production of extremely goofy endeavors like this. But above all, have a nice day.
Must be on drugs.
Video games are so much fun, dude. Such wondrous things.